Hey, it's Joshua Vergara. What's going on, everybody? All right, let's talk about the Black Shark 2. Now, I did do a more conventional review on this phone over at Pocket Now. So if you want to take a look at what this phone is like as a flagship device, as an everyday device, make sure you check out that review appearing in the card above or in the description down below. This video is going to be a little bit different, but before I get started with all of that, I do want to give some general thoughts. I actually think this is a good everyday phone. The camera may not be amazing, but there are features on this phone that really help the everyday experience. Like, for example, the antenna array that allows for the wireless connection to be top-notch. There is an in-display fingerprint reader that works really well. Gets you right into the version of Android that's on here, which is basically the Pixel launcher. Media consumption is good on here, even if the screen is only 1080p. However, you do have HDR capabilities in this display, and you have dual front-facing speakers that do a great job of just emitting the audio coming from any media that you might be watching or even listening to. Speaking of listening to stuff, there's no headphone jack. That is a bummer, but one of the reasons why there isn't one is because the case where you put the controllers in covers up both the top and bottom. So it's not like you could have put any headphone jack on here that was easily accessible while using it in the full configuration. With that said, however, it would be nice to see one in the future, so Black Shark, maybe get on that. Find a way to get some wired audio on here, maybe even a DAC and an amp inside of there, kind of like the LG phones, and you might have yourselves one of the best media consumption devices out there. Then you can have a great time with a unique looking device that happens to have extra capabilities, and that has to do with this slider over here. You probably know this by now, this is the Shark Space. This is where all of your games will live, and when you get into the Shark Space, you also have all of the memory freed up so that you can just enjoy your games. Now, as you can see in this menu, I have used this for a lot of games, but most of these games that I have installed on here were really just for testing out the controllers, which is what we're going to start off with in this video. So what we have here is a case where you have these slots over on the sides, and it makes it a little bit like a Nintendo Switch. Not quite though, and we're going to get into why in just a second. This case, by the way, is an ingenious design. This is something that we should see more often, but because they are two different pieces for a full controller experience, what you have here are two different switches. So you hit the two sides, you turn that on, then you turn that on. There you go. Once these green lights are lit up, that means that you're ready to go. Now, if we go to the controller here, you have two different controllers, both of which are connected via Bluetooth separately. And then they work in congruence in order to give you a tactile version of the touchscreen controls. Now, remember that I just said that these controllers are for the on-screen controls. These are going to be mapped in such a way so that it emulates presses on the screen. That is where some of the issues come in. You've probably seen me play PUBG Mobile on this phone enough, so I actually want to get into another game, another system, in order for you to see why these controllers may not actually be the best for more than PUBG Mobile. So I've opened up Bully here, and Bully is the type of game that you might expect to be on a console, to use with an Xbox controller or a PS4 controller, or just a general gamepad. Now, what I've done here is I've gone ahead and mapped all of these controls to various portions. There's no virtual joystick on screen. It's just a contextual swipe and press over here. And then this is the touchpad. This touchpad I had to put in sort of a blank area. That way I can actually move it around and control the camera. So that's actually what I'm doing here. Here's the problem though. This joystick, since it's registering presses on the screen, it might not really work one-to-one with what you're looking for. So if I go slowly, if I'm careful about how I move that joystick, I can pretty much get around. But for quick presses, you can see how the joystick is appearing above where I have it set up. This happens way more often than not, and it means that I can't really move around very easily. You can see how it's all the way on the bottom even right now. So you have to be careful with these because it's all about touchscreen controls, and without a virtual joystick on the screen, it's not really reenacting my one-to-one movements on the joystick. So obviously these controllers are not going to work with a lot of games in the Google Play Store because the controls just aren't mapped properly on the screen. In these cases, this is when you would try to use something different. This is still an Android smartphone through and through, and that's when we can bring in a more conventional gamepad like this, the Razer Raiju Mobile. This is where the rest of the experience actually opens up. So we're going to go ahead and play the same game here. I'm actually having a much better time controlling this game exactly the way that it needs to be controlled, rather than having to fiddle with those on-screen controls. So the side switch-like controllers for the Black Shark 2, they're awesome, they're great, don't get me wrong. They actually add a layer to this smartphone that probably was needed. Even if controllers like that are generally banned in games like PUBG Mobile and Fortnite, you can find other games in the Play Store where the on-screen controls are basically there. Emulators are a good example, however I did have the same issue where sometimes the presses on the screen emulated by the joystick just weren't working perfectly. Again, with emulators and with games like Bully like I'm playing right now, a conventional gamepad like this that is compatible with Android to begin with is still a great option. And then you have all of those games that basically don't use a gamepad and require you to use the screen the entire time. There are games that come to mind like Dragalia Lost, or Elder Scrolls Blades, or even Fire Emblem Heroes. Those are still games that require the smartphone screen. That's just the way that they're built, and you're not going to be using the controllers with those games anytime soon. It's in these situations that the Black Shark 2 has a good display. It's not the best display, it doesn't have a high resolution, it's not over 1080p, and also it doesn't have a high refresh rate. But that's not to take away from the good experience that you can still have in games like this. So is the Black Shark 2 the answer to all of our gaming prayers? No, it's not. But you know what? The point of this video is for me to say that it's not Black Shark's fault. It's just the state of Android gaming right now. We have a lot to look forward to in the Google Play Store, and it looks like mobile gaming is becoming more and more prevalent, so we're going to see more AAA titles hopefully in the future. The thing is, a phone like the Black Shark 2 tries its best to accommodate every single type of game that's in there, and I think that is a very noble cause. And besides, this phone is well equipped to be able to handle all of those games and give you wonderful performance. And I'm not just talking about the Shark Space, even though that does take advantage of all of the specs beautifully. You still have the Snapdragon 855, you have a lot of RAM, you have a lot of storage on here, and there's plenty of fun to be had on this device, even if those controllers are not perfect. So here's to hoping that the next Black Shark high-end smartphone addresses all of these things. It might actually become the best Android gaming smartphone ever, if they are able to address some of the flaws in the display, the lack of a headphone jack, but also create a controller that can not only emulate on-screen controls, but also be connected to the phone like a conventional gamepad, so it can cover literally all of the bases. So as always, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for indulging me on this somewhat different video when it comes to the Black Shark 2. I've already done a conventional review on it, and I wanted to give you some thoughts on the gaming experience in particular because I know a lot of you out there wanted to see more. So that's what I hope I gave you in this video. I still think the Black Shark 2 is a wonderful gaming device. It might be one of the best that's out there right now. As far as how it stacks up to other flagships, well, flagship devices are starting to become more gamer oriented, so that's something to consider. But if you want to go all in on the gaming stuff, the Black Shark 2 might be one of the best choices. Drop some likes on this video and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Look forward to more here at JV. And until my next video, I would just remind you to enjoy your mobile games and your tea, everybody.